Hi everyone, Makaela here from the Burka Avenger project. Welcome to the 12th video in our web series that discusses the Burka Avenger Teacher's Guide and how to get the most out of it. In this video, I will be going over chapter 12 called Haunted House that begins on page 181 of the Teacher's Guide. The theme of chapter 12 is superstitions and child labor and is broken down into 3 sections: before you watch, while you watch, and after you watch. Be cognizant when going over this chapter that the topic of superstitions and supernatural elements may be sensitive for some students from some cultures. It is essential that all students feel comfortable discussing the ideas and the information in this chapter, so be sure to consider the most appropriate ways to approach these and the other related topics in class. If any of your students do not feel comfortable discussing this topic, be sure to have a backup plan in place to accommodate their needs. My recommendation would be to direct such a student to address the chapter focusing solely on the child labor portion and to disregard the ideas and references throughout the chapter that go beyond this scope. Much can be said about child labor, so any student that requires an accommodation will not receive any less attention or fewer opportunities for engagement. The Before You Watch section has a whopping 3 optional activities, all of which I recommend implementing if time permits. The first 2 depend on students bringing their prior knowledge of fictional characters from folk tales, books, movies, and video games into the conversation. My recommendation would be to blend the first 2 activities into one since they flow so well together. Begin by gathering titles of stories students know that have a haunted house as part of the story. I would use this as a brainstorming session to try and come up with as many examples as possible, even if students aren't very familiar with the story. As long as it meets the criteria of having a haunted house, put it on the list. Then ask students to share as much information as they know about each story. Make this a collaborative effort by breaking students into groups or doing it as a whole class. Students should feel like they are working together to gather as much knowledge as is shared among them, not competing against each other. Once all the knowledge has become common, complete exercise B and direct students to draw their attention to their own interpretation of what one of the vocabulary words would look like in their own mind's eye. Be sure to let them know that this is a creative exercise so they can represent the vocabulary word in a fun or innovative way, even taking a modern approach if they like. Including activities such as exercise C in the While You Watch section is great for mixed ability classrooms because it can challenge students in different ways. For lower level students, all the answers are in front of them to choose, so it does not require the same level of competency as, say, a fill in the blank would, leading it to be more accessible to the lower level students. When I teach mixed ability classes, I like to ask intermediate level students to read the exercises like this aloud. Doing so offers this group extra speaking practice while letting the lower level students listen to someone besides me speak. Once the students are familiar with the task and complete it by watching the video, I then reach out to the higher level students to share their answers. In this way, each level is appropriately challenged while engaging in the same activity. Some of the exercises in the After You Watch section are best assigned to older or mature students, such as exercise A. If you're teaching younger children, they might not have enough life experience to be able to answer some of these questions in a meaningful way. With this being said, you know your students best. Never be afraid to challenge them, but as teachers, it is our job to be able to accurately gauge what is within our students' grasps. If you're on the fence, go ahead and give exercise A a try, but use it as a means of evaluating whether or not to attempt another activity like this with them in the near future. Well, that's it for chapter 12. I hope you enjoyed this video and got some good ideas on how you can best use Chapter 12 in your classroom. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like this video and share it widely with your colleagues and the other teachers that you know. Videos for chapters 1 through 11 are also available, as well as the corresponding Quick Tips series, which takes an expert dive into an interesting aspect of each chapter. So check those out as well. Thanks again, everyone.